Yo, 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 what is going on, everybody? Gabriel Santos here. And in today's video, we're going to talk about a interesting aspect when it comes to making changes in our lives, stepping outside of laziness, and finally being productive. And the context for this is, for myself personally, I was going through this pattern of, going through a rut, kind of avoiding things, being lazy, not taking care of responsibilities, letting things pile up. And finally, at some point, I got my act together and would start to take action, right? But then, somewhere along the line, within 2 weeks, well within a month, I would lose motivation. I would lose the energy to continue momentum and continue action, and I would stop, and then I would go backwards, so to speak. And most recently, I went through this pattern again, right? Was going through a lot of laziness, a lot of kind of like depression, not serious depression, but just, you're down, you're not taking action, survival mode, as I talked about in a recent video. Right, so I got my act together, right? Started to do chores, starting to, make videos, starting to just show up in my life again. I'm sure many of you can relate. But within a week, I got this feeling of, or rather, there was a lack of feeling, right? Because when we first get out of a rut, taking action feels so good. And there's such a significant contrast between the laziness and the negativity that we were sitting in compared to the positive energy that comes from taking action, right? Picking up your clothes, throwing away the trash, organizing your room, making that appointment, right? Doing this thing, doing that thing, boom, 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 knocking things out. And the contrast between those two worlds is so significant that the emotions and the feelings that we get and the headspace that we're in because of that contrast is like, it's like a high. It's like a high. But then rather quickly, within a week, that contrast and that feeling of being high on productivity and high on responsibility decreases. And it gets to the point where, at least for me, it was like, oh man, instead of being like, yeah, I'm ready to work out, I'm excited to work out, it's like, oh. And I was hit with this kind of feeling like it takes a lot of energy. I gotta journal, I gotta read, and this juice to continue being productive and showing up and having this high energy lifestyle, it was waning, right? The juice was waning. And so, this is not my first rodeo experiencing this lack of energy, this lack of juice. And so, like many people, I decided to Google this, right? To try and figure this out. And I ended up finding an answer. I don't know if it was on Reddit or like Quora or something like that. And I found it very helpful. And so I'm going to share that with you today. Basically, I'm paraphrasing. This person said, it's important not to get, or rather, it's easy to fall in love with the feelings that we get from productivity and the feeling of progress and the feeling of like, oh, yay, look at me. I'm not depressed. I'm actually doing something. It's easy to get attached and to do things because of how it makes you feel. And sometimes that feeling just isn't there. And rather, instead, this person says instead of committing to just the feelings of showing up, or you got to commit to the finish line, and you have to commit to the action. So the message is, don't commit to the feelings you get, commit to the actions you need to take. And so that really empowered me. That showed me that what that showed me is, oh my gosh, I was only doing things because of how they made me feel. And granted, right, working out, right, does make you feel good. But after a while, it's like, man, I'm checking off like 30 boxes a day doing that chore, doing that errand, doing that responsibility, showing up for this, and these are all great things, but it's like, oh, I'm like, oh, right? Especially compared to like, oh, the binge lifestyle of let me eat this junk food, let me smoke this weed, let me drink this alcohol, let me have this sugar, let me binge watch this thing, right? Where you're getting all these short-term, like actual short-term chemical highs from all those things, right? It's like, I'm gonna be honest, right? Like after the fifth time of taking out the trash or the fifth time of like cleaning my room, it's like I don't get that kind of high, right? But at the same time, I can't just decide, you know what, cleaning up my room isn't worth it because I'm not getting this like juicy high of being like, wow, look at me, right? It's important to clean up my room because of the impact that having a clean room has on me, right? And so that showed me that I can't just do it because of how it makes me feel. I can't just do it because I get an immediate high. I have to do it because, first of all, when I don't do it, there is a significant impact, right? So clearly, cleaning up my room and making videos and exercising regularly is important. And it's important not just because of the immediate high that I might get from doing them, right? There's more factors that go into it. And so it's a couple things. One, it's understanding that these things are important. They're important for many different reasons, many real reasons, whether it's mental health, whether it's logistics, whether it's what have you, and that there are things I need to do because of the way they impact me. And number two is that I can't just do them because of how it makes me feel. I have to do them on almost like principle, right? And so lately, ever since reading that message a week ago, it's been much easier to not just convince myself to get up, but to understand that it's important to do this, not because of how it makes me feel, but because it's important, period. And so the point is to commit to the action, not just the feelings you get from the action. And that might be an old, something that you've heard a million times in a million different ways. But it was eye-opening to me, right? It was specifically eye-opening for me to realize, like, oh my gosh, I was only committing to actions because of how they were making me feel. But after they stopped making me feel a certain way, right? Because it's like, just like with, whether you get a tolerance to things, right? The first time you have something, it's exciting, it's new. Oh my gosh, I haven't done this. Whether it's a video game or, in a lot of cases for us on this channel, marijuana, it's like, oh my gosh. But after smoking so many times or playing this video game so many times, or seeing something for the 50th time, it's like, okay, it's like the same type of juice isn't there. So it's like, it's kind of boring. And a similar way that happened with productivity and responsibility. It's like, oh my God, after being so responsible for so many times, it's like, you don't really feel anything, right? But that doesn't mean it's not important. In reality, it is important. And so because it's important, it must get done. And so it's a little more of like a heady, right? Like a rational, logical approach to taking action. But I found that because I tend to be a little more on the emotional side, very much on the emotional side, it was important for me to discover this distinction that it's important for me to take actions because those actions are important. And that whether I feel this overwhelming sense of progress or life transformation or not, the importance of those action items remains the same. And so, that's something to consider for you, right? Whenever this seems relevant. And I know for many of us, we're trying to get a sense of consistency in our lives. We're trying to step outside of laziness, and not maybe all throughout your life, but in some areas, we're trying to make changes. We're trying to create stability. We're trying to thrive. We're trying to have vitality. We're trying to have momentum, right? We're trying to have better lives in general. And so something to consider is, where are you showing up just because it makes you feel good? And is that working for you long term? For me, it wasn't enough. Obviously, I feel good when I show up, but it's not this like big juicy high like we've talked about, right? It's a little more subtle, right? Not as not as strong. But that doesn't mean it's not important. I know I've repeated that 1,000 times this video, but it doesn't mean it's not important. It is important, so it's important to do them. Right? And that shows, right? That shows I've been more consistent in the videos. I'm not just doing it because of the high. I'm doing it on principle. This is important. And so I need to do it. And so I do it. And it's a lot, it requires a little more maturity on my side and a little more honesty as well. And just a little more care, like to care about something more than just the short-term feelings of, oh, I'm lazy, so I don't want to do it, or whatever. It's important, so we got to do it. Anyways, hope this video found you guys well. Feel free to leave anything that comes up for you in the comments down below. Feel free, maybe something that relates, that you relate to, something that maybe an aha moment, or maybe something else you want to share to others in the comments down below. But yeah, hope this video finds you well. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, peace.